Welcome to the Jay Franze Show, your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews, with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard.
Just so I could piss right next to Tom Petty.
Garth turned out to be the most loyal artist of all time.
Smoked weed with Willie.
That was the most surreal, tension moment.
So I knew I already had a strike against me.
Now, here's your host, Jay Franze.
And we are coming at you live. I am Jay Franze, and if you are new to the show, this is your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews. And if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jayfranze.com. All right, my friends, tonight we have a very special guest with us. I said it once, I will say it again. We have a very special guest. We actually have a recording artist with us tonight, hailing from the great state of Ohio. We have Matthew Fritsch.
Hey guys, how are you? It's good to be here.
Did I get that right tonight?
You did, man. You nailed it.
Thank you for joining us, sir. All right. We have a lot to go over. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in.
Go for it.
Can you tell me the impact that Papa Roach had on you in your career?
Oh, that is a great question, man. It's interesting that you picked up, I guess, on that. So what I will say is Papa Roach, one of my absolute favorite bands. We are, I feel, a little bit more aggressive, a little heavier, but the influence is definitely there, always has been. The things that I always take away from the most is the emotional value, like the rawness, the amount that Jacoby puts into it, the whole band puts into it. But the lyrics, they're not like, hey, we're hiding in mystery, and which I tend to do with mine, but they're more like, they taught me to be more vulnerable with my lyrics. But his live stage show is absolutely hands down one of my, I would say, top 3 performers to watch, because, when you watch them live, they are so just full of energy, so full of grabbing the crowd, making the crowd be a part of it. I even remember we went to Rock on the Range, took some friends, and they never saw Papa Roach before. I'd seen them umpteen times at that point. And one of the biggest things I told them was, I was like, we've seen a lot of heavy bands prior to this, and they're not as heavy as some of these bands we've seen. But what I want you to be prepared for is there's going to be just an absolute onslaught of crowd energy. There's going to be the crowd surfing, the just people everywhere. Like, you have to have your head on a swivel in a big Papa Roach show, because they do something magical. They hit that stage, man, and it is lightning from the start to the finish. There's no like, hey, we're phoning this one in. There's never been a, hey, this is just a gas stop on the way. They're every single time I've seen them. And I would put it at 10 or better at this point, that you are just enamored from the beginning. It's just a full-on energy-ridden adrenaline rush of just like, I'm loving the music. I love every song. They're so relatable. They're so vulnerable. They're so open. But at the same time, they kick fucking ass. So it's like the fans, other than myself, just seem to just resonate with that, because, again, I've seen bands that are heavier or a more powerful style, but like when they hit, everybody moves. They do not leave anybody just standing there going, well, yeah, this is okay. It's like, no, dude, you're here, you're part of it, and they are making sure of it, and they make sure that there is that community, that family connection. You're standing around strangers, and you're all like, hey, look how, man, there's a guy coming, you're looking out for each other, and you're loving the music, you're singing the song together. They really have perfected the way of bringing strangers together that are all going through their own individual emotional roller coasters of life, to let it out together at the same time and enjoy it. Not like, nobody's getting punched in the face, but you might, end up like accidentally getting a shoe in the face from someone, but it's such a community that there are a ton of bands that I fully respect and love, but very few that I've seen just bring total strangers absolutely together instantaneously.
All right. We always say that there's a thing of having a mentor, whether it be formal or informal, and it sounds like Papa Roach to you is that mentor. So when you were talking about it, you mentioned being vulnerable and that you learn to be vulnerable. So can you give us an example of what that is in your case?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I've always kind of had a hard time opening up fully with the emotions. So a lot of my lyrics tend to be more cryptic, more symbolic, and not actually just speaking to the nature of what is actually going on and what is there, and just being a little bit more vague instead of being more direct. And Jacoby does a great job of being like, no, this is exactly why I'm hurt, how I'm hurt, and how I'm trying to heal from it. And I found some beauty in that, and I said, man, I think that's one thing that early stages of my music missed out on, is that they weren't digging in deep enough. They weren't being vulnerable enough. I was more worried about sounding cool, sounding poetic, sounding, I've got all the right words, but I don't have all the right raw emotional feeling that is what music does, and it connects people.
So you're primarily talking lyrically.
Yeah. And just, and the emotions of the voice, it wasn't all just like, hey, I'm in pain, let me scream about it. It was, hey, I'm in pain, let me sing about it, which was a totally unique perspective that I didn't consider as much prior to that. I will say that Slipknot, Corey Taylor also taught me a lot of value in that lesson, especially the album Subliminal Verses. Same thing. I just remember listening to it and just thinking, this dude's putting it all out there. Like, you're a big celebrity, just like Jacob, you're a big celebrity. You are going through some stuff, but you're not like hiding behind it. You're not being like, well, I don't want people to know too much because they might judge. You're like, no, this is real. This is human emotion. This is what I'm going through, and I'm going to express it in a very beautiful way. And if it makes me vulnerable and people want to judge me for it, I'm okay with that, because it's what I'm really going through, not what I want to sell you that I'm going through.
So now, we haven't mentioned it, but you're the vocalist for Life After This.
Yes.
So when we're talking about you singing these lyrics, are you the primary lyric writer in the band?
Yeah, it's funny. When it comes to the music, right, I cannot play an instrument. Okay, I cannot. I'm not patient enough. I'm not talented enough. But I've surrounded myself with these guys are so talented, so good, and just so good at what they do that I can hear stuff in my head. I can hear the music in my head. We write songs together. It typically starts with like a guitar riff, and then we build around that. So Thomas brings in the guitar riff. We're like, that's badass. But then, they're so accepting and open to, it's like, well, could you make it go up there? Can you do ba 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 or ba ba ba? The whole musician talk without actually using proper terms. And so they're very good, patient, and understanding enough to nail that almost immediately with whatever changes we try out to see if they stick. But when it comes to the lyrics and melody, I tend to do that after everything is finalized. It's like, and I'll do that myself, which is, admittedly a bit more on the selfish side, because it's like, this is my part. Don't talk about it. Don't touch it. Don't move it. Don't, like, everything needs to be how I need it. And it's like, but they're so open to be, and not that I'm never accepting, because there's so many times from the studio and we're recording a song and they go, hey man, that sounds a little wordy. Could you try this? Or that sounds a little off there. Could you try that? But when it comes to the actual writing process, they're very good at being patient and understanding and letting me just say, like, I want the song to speak to me. We built this foundation, we built this energy movement in the notes. And then to me, it's kind of like every song we create is like having like a different child. I don't necessarily love one more than the other, but they're all different personalities and they're all unique. So we build the music first, and then I listen to what it dictates that it wants to sound like in my mind. And then I write the lyrics and the melodies after that.
So as we were talking about Papa Roach and the influence, you mentioned that you're a little heavier. So you have the Papa Roach influence, but you're a little heavier than what they would be. So do you feel like that heaviness is a piece of that aggression?
For sure. But I also feel like it was in the beginning stages of learning the process of music, writing songs and performing. It might have been gravitated to more naturally, to where, like, the singing, the melodic, the openness of all that. Well, I was always more guarded in the beginning before these influences showed me, like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, like, express yourself in other ways other than, just, hey, my music's angry, so I feel angry. Let's get that out. But it was like, hey, you can actually have other feelings and get points across in different ways. I guess a good analogy is like every toolbox needs a hammer, but not every job requires a hammer, right? You want to diversify your tools to where you can say something more delicate and specific, more precise on this individual song would be better for this job.
That's advice we need to give my wife. She doesn't always need to pull out the hammer.
She's just a hammer all the way, always hammer. She's like, well, I'm going to break it. It's going to work. It's either going to break or it's going to work. Those are the options.
So anyways, so we're talking about the heaviness of your music. So why don't we take a moment here for you to kind of just tell us what you would describe your music as? What genre would you put it in?
Most people would consider us more metal, but we have a lot of rock songs as well. They're less aggressive. But the thing is we've always tried to go out of our way to make our music not sound the same. I heard someone say this. It was one of our recording guys early on where we were having this open discussion about it. And he said, man, he loves it because in his opinion, it should be like all of your music should live on the same street, but not in the same house. Because there are certain bands, them, you hear them, their style. It's them, even if it's the first time you heard that song. That's what we always went for. But we also don't want every song to sound the same to where it's like, not knocking anybody at all here, but I kind of lose interest if it feels like if you hit play on an album and it sounds like one long song instead of 10 individual songs. I'm like, so even if we're going to be heavy, more bass line, so how do we still diversify that and say like, well, I don't want it to be boring at some point. I want it to be like everything's got its own little different flair. We're not afraid to try different styles, which we've done. I mean, we've got a good catalog of songs, and I would honestly say if you just hit play and just listen to every one of them, you'd be like, okay, there's a lot of different things going on. And the average listener is, even if they don't like the heavy, but they like the soft. Even if they don't like the soft, but they like the heavy, they're going to find something in the catalog that they could at least be like, nah, I dig this.
You also mentioned earlier about a community. And I think this style of music always forms a community that most people don't think about. They think of metal music or rock music as aggression and as a form of rebellion. Nobody ever thinks about the community that it forms. So how do you feel like you guys fit into that community, and what do you do to establish your own piece of that community?
Oh, fantastic question. So, I will feel like, again, and I'm never knocking anybody, tearing anybody down, but if you go to like a pop concert, let's say you go to some music that's just more like poppy, it's been written by professional writers, and then they just kind of hand it off to someone to perform it and do that because they know it's catchy, it's going to sell, it's going to be a big hit, but it lacks authenticity. So when you get into that community, typically in that kind of scene, you have people that maybe are more along the alignment of the black sheeps, like the people that might be going through some things, might be like, they're not just here to hear happy 80s pop music. That's like, you listen to it and you walk away and you feel good, and that's it. This is tends to be more of a scene where people are, having a little bit of trouble, maybe expressing emotions, having a little bit of trouble going through some things in life that they don't know how to navigate. And when you can hear that music that like, oh, I can relate to that. That's not like, just some bubblegum pop that, was catchy and fun for 20 minutes, but then you're bored with it. It's those songs where you're like, that's exactly what I'm going through. That's exactly what I'm feeling. That's exactly what I was unable to explain myself. And it's nice to know that someone else went through it. I can resonate with that. And then, when you have your shows and you have those crowds, they feel that and they vibe off of each other and they feel each other. Cause it's not just, hey, I don't want to come here to talk to anybody. I just want to be left alone, check out my pop music and then go on. It's like, no. I can tell you're in pain. I can tell you're in pain. Like this song meant a lot to me, and they share stories. They share, this is what I'm going through, or how long have you been following the band? And there's just so much more of a camaraderie, I feel, than just strangers that paid money to go to a concert. It's more of a, how are we all uniting and bonding and feeling this together, and these emotions that I couldn't find another way to express. And I'm happy somebody did it, and we could all be here together to enjoy it.
So as you're making that connection with your fans, how are you taking that to the next level? Like, is there a community? Do you meet with your fans after the shows? Do you meet with them online? Where do you develop that community?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So I'm a little showing my age here. Okay. So everything nowadays is done online and it's digital, and there's a lot of bands nowadays that are against pre-sale tickets. That's a whole other debate to be had, but we have always been a fan of pre-sale tickets. And the reason being, like, physical pre-sale tickets, we still do them online. We still do our stuff because we got, you got to keep up. But what I always loved is the hustle of being early and young as a band. And the cool thing is that, like, if you have physical tickets that you have to sell, well, one, you're going to get more people to the show because it's a commitment from them. But two, it makes you go meet them. You sell them the ticket. You hang out. You go for a beer. You go for meet up in a parking lot halfway between, catch up. How you doing? How you been? That kind of stuff. At our shows, we're always very open and very active about like wanting to be a part of people's lives, like wanting to talk to them, want to be around them. And in most cases, if we're on one of those bills where it's not just like us playing, but it's like, okay, you got 4 or 5 bands, we're almost always like at the merch booth in front of the stage, watching the other bands, supporting the other bands. And it's so funny because like legitimately all of us in this band, we're goofy, man. We're like goobers, but see us on stage, you wouldn't expect that. Like we're dorks, right? Like, and you see us on stage and there's this aggression level and there's this raw, and it kills me. I love it to this day where you'll be, okay, well, we played and maybe we're not headlining, but there's another band after us. So we're in the crowd. We're like, we're watching the bands, we're hanging out with the people. And the amount of times that you'll get this, like you can, out of your peripheral vision, you see someone kind of like, maybe a group, maybe a person, but they're kind of like edging their way towards you, kind of, like wanting to approach, and you're like, hey, what's up? And you just start up a conversation and talking. They go, oh, dude, your show was cool and we loved it and blah, blah. And you start just joking around with them. And the amount of times you have to hear like, oh, I thought you'd be like so scary to meet because like, up there, you're just like rah and yelling and stuff. And you're like, no, dude, I promise you I'm the biggest dork in this room. And, you end up hanging out with them. You're having conversations. You're buying each other drinks. And there's just a lot of enjoyment I get out of that because of that human connection element of it, that it's not just like, we still care. We always will because it's just fun. That's why we did it. We got into it because we're all musicians at heart. We're all fans at heart. We go to bands ourselves. So we know what that experience is like. And, nobody wants to get snubbed or not get like 5 minutes to hang out. So we're like, no, we're just down to earth dudes. Let's hang out and have a good time and enjoy the show because we're enjoying it just as much as you are.
I saw you guys play over at Annie's Music Center.
Yeah.
And Archer's Gate opened up for you guys.
Yeah.
And Josh from Archer's Gate was front row center while you guys were performing. So it seems like not only a community of music fans, but it shows that the musicians that are performing are also music fans and support each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man.
But the other thing you mentioned there was selling physical tickets and allowing that connection, which then results in commitment by the ticket buyer, the potential fan. I grew up in Boston, so another major city, and I used to play in rock bands when I was younger and able, we'll say. But
you still got it in there somewhere. I just feel it. I know.
But we used to go to the local colleges because in Boston there's a college every 10 feet.
Right.
So we used to go to the colleges and we would walk the campus and hand out flyers and try to get people to commit to go to the shows. And I always found that equally as fun and enjoyable as playing the show because you meet the people, you talk to the people. So I can understand how that helps you build the community. But in Boston, I knew what the community was like. You're in Ohio. What is the music scene there like?
It's awesome, man. I mean, we've had nothing but good experiences and we've had a great time. And it's, kind of to touch a little bit more on this is that like we've had shows in the past where, we're going to play a show in Dayton, let's say, instead of Cincinnati. And I think on this particular one, we were opening up for Mushroom Head. And it was funny because you have an expectation like, well, you have to perform, you have to bring crowd, you have to do well. And we try to use everything as an opportunity for the fans. So it was like, okay, well, we're playing. It's not that far away, but it's like far enough away that how do we get our fans there? And especially, people love to drink. They love to party at these shows. And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, all right, I got this one, man. So what we did was we sold extra tickets we rented a school bus with a driver and we turned it into a party bus. We were allowed to drink on. So we had 2 different pickup locations in like kind of our area, remote a little bit. We sold that thing out and the 3 of us, other than the drummer, Matt, he had to take all his equipment, his drums and stuff. So he drove up by himself and we rode up on the bus with the fans. And I mean, it was one of the funnest times and it was just a blast because like you got all these people that just love the band and we're just drinking, hanging out beers. I was part of
your shit by the time we get to your show.
So we kept it together. But the drummer even said, like, he was like, he's inside the venue, his stuff set up, he's chilling. And then he said the volume in the room jumped about like 20 decibels when the bus showed up, because like we're all geared to go. We just had like an hour and a half partying, hanging out, yelling, having fun. And then like, we show up to this venue and it's kind of like, the shows get started. It's, everybody's like checking out the open bands, a little bit going on, and the fucking doors bust open and it's as loud as hell. This big party already comes in. It's already mid-party for the show, So that's a lot of the stuff we do. We love doing stuff like that. But as far as the bands and the community, we've had so much good luck, man, and good success. And we've always been the band that tries to help out other bands. We go to support other bands. We go to watch other bands. We give them advice. I constantly get people that are doing their work on their music, working on their albums. They'll reach out and say, hey, can you listen to this ahead of time before release it? What are your thoughts? What would you tweak? What would you edit? And, just being fuck all the ego stuff. We don't, that's not us. So you get these bands that like just think that they're so spectacular that it's everybody's gift to see them. And we're not about that, man. We want to help each other. We want to like, we've always had a saying like, a rising tide raises all ships. So it's like, even if I might be in a better position than you today, I'm still going to help you as much as I can, because you might be in a better position than me tomorrow, and as long as we're always good and helping each other and helping and making it right with each other, then it's awesome, because you can help each other succeed. It doesn't have to be this competition of like, oh, well, my band's better than your band. No, it's just uniquely different than your band, and there's an audience for all of that. So it's not about, oh, I'm better or I'm bigger or what. No, it's just, look, I have my audience, you have your audience. Let's help them hang out together and have a good time.
So let's step back for just a second and finish this discussion about the party bus.
Okay.
All right. So typically, fans of bands don't get to spend like FaceTime with the artists. I mean, that is not something that typically happens. And now you've got a busload of fans traveling with three-thirds, yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Three members, let's say that. Three-quarters? Yeah, three-quarters. That's a math strong. So you've got three-quarters of the band driving with them in the bus. So what is that type of dynamic? What's that relationship like between you and the fans that are actually on the bus?
It's great. I mean, it was honestly one of the most fun things. I mean, it had to have been like the loudest bus, just laughing, joking. We're all talking, we're all hanging out. I can say I don't envy whoever was the driver we hired that day. Like, he knew what he was signing up for, okay? Because it was like, he knew going in what this was. We explained it very well. He was totally cool about it. But I will say the bus ride there, very, very, very cool, very fun, very loud, and just constant. I mean, because we're bouncing around and we're talking to each other and we're talking to the people and we're just having a really good time. We got radios playing and it's just a cool, how do we get people to enjoy the show? I will tell you, if you get there on the bus, you have to get back on the bus, which means the bus leaves at the end of the show. So the bus ride back, a lot quieter.
Yeah,
because everybody had such a good time, and we got them so primed, like going in. Like we overshot the runway maybe a little bit with some of them. We're like
comatose.
We got them all home safe. We got them back to their destination drop-offs where they had rides and all the good stuff. But it was like the ride there, loud as all get out, fun as hell. The ride back, everybody's exhausted except for a handful. It's dark. It's like, that was a great show, and I'm so wore out. I just want to be in bed, Yeah. And I think that sentiment was across the board. It wasn't like there was 10 of them that are like, no, let's keep going. Everybody was like, this was amazing. I'm ready to go to bed.
Now, you did say it was a school bus that you hired, so I'm assuming there's no stripper pole.
No.
It'd be wrong if there was.
Hey,
what kind of school system do you have in Ohio?
You said no gotcha question.
Was there any sort of shenanigans on that bus?
No. It was all above board, man. It was a lot of fun. We do a good job of being fun and having a great time, and we are always a blast to hang out with. But we're never looking to put ourselves or anyone else in a situation. Because even if 5 of them were deciding, hey, let's do something really reckless, you still got the other 25 that are like, I didn't sign up for this, you know. Like, do we have a lawyer on the bus that can walk me through this scenario real quick? Like, before
where
we
does
do
the liability fall?
So, yeah, like, what's liability like on this?
All right. Well, earlier you were talking about the creative process, where you said you like the musicians to put the music together first, whether that be with your influence or not. Mm-hmm. And then they put the music together, and then you write the lyrics and the melody around that.
Right.
So then how do you guys demo the songs before you go into the studio?
Well, man, you're rocking it with these questions. It's funny because up until recent years, there wasn't as much of that. So we literally would, they'd have their instruments all worked out. We're down in a basement. I'm, scribbling notes. I'm scribbling lyrics. I'm trying things out. I'm screaming on a microphone. But I would say at this point, 70% of our first songs we wrote, like now they get a better view, but 70% of that, they honestly wouldn't know the full lyrics, the full melodies until we're in the studio, and they're just like, "Holy shit!" Like, I didn't know. Like, there's even a very one of our songs called I just drew a blank. But anyway, we have a song, and it's "False Prophet." That's what it is. And so the drummer, in his mind, they wrote the music. He's heard the music. We played it. He's thinking it's going to go one way. And then, he's got like in his mind, like, oh, he's probably going to do this or that. And totally different version than I did in the studio. And when he heard it, he was like, he loved it. He was blown away. But it wasn't until we really got Ray, our bass player, that, like we had a couple lineup changes, all bands do. Ray actually kind of opened our eyes because we were dumb. We've all been in bands forever, but you do it the dumb way, and he was the first one to come in and say, why don't I bring a like recording thing down to the band practice space, and we can do like our own mock recordings, hear what you're doing, influence what you're doing, see what you're doing before going to an expensive studio and finding out what's going on.
Let's save some money.
Yes, that improved our writing process. It also diminished their learning on the fly process of like, oh, I didn't know that was going on. Okay, let's see what's going on here. And it's always worked out. It's always been good. But I will say that definitely increased our performance because it gave us more opportunity ahead of time to be like, okay, well, what would be good there? Like some layering vocals, some backups, some whatever, instead of just, okay, we hear exactly what you're doing. Didn't know that that's what was going to happen or that's what the words were going to be, but we love it. What do we throw together to spice this up? It gave us just more preparedness to be like, okay, here I hear like a 3-part harmony. I hear a backing vocal track that does that. But up until having Ray, it was funny because most times they legit did not know fully what I was going to do until we're like in the studio. There's a microphone in my face, and there was one time we recorded a song and it was good. I like the way we already wrote it. We didn't record it. We were in the hotel room the night before we were going to record, right? Because we travel to record. It's not, we don't do the basement or the bedroom recordings. We do like the studio. So it was the night before, and I don't know why this part of me exists, but it was just like I'm never happy with it. But for some reason, it feels like I just love to leave them on a cliffhanger, to where like I rewrote one of the songs that worked out really well the night before. It was like, you're in a band, you're out of town, you're in a hotel room, like let's go to the pub, let's go party, let's go like to the bar, whatever. And I was like, you guys go ahead. Something in me has to change this song. I have to redo it. So I got my headphones on, my earbuds. I'm changing all the lyrics. I'm changing all the melodies. And they're just, I want to say sweating bullets, but they're used to it at this point. So it was kind of like, it was already perceived chaos, right? They knew, they were comfortable with it because they were like, this is chaotic, this is stressful, but at the same time, it's not the first time I've been through this, and it always works out. So, I just changed the entire song, rewrote it, and I loved the way it came out. They all did too. It worked, I think, way better than what I originally had figured out. But again, I credit Ray with being more like, hey, can we try to at least get a heads up on what's going on? I was like, not a terrible idea. Not how we've traditionally done it.
All right, a couple things. What song did that turn into?
What was the name of it? I always name weird stuff. It was Trainwreck. Trainwreck is what it was called.
Yeah, it was. It was a train wreck for sure.
Yeah, and that's what was funny because I didn't name it. Like the drummer, I believe Matt, was the one that was like, this song is called this now. I'm like, all right, cool, I love it, let's do it.
So now you've mentioned all of the other bandmates at this point. So you got Thomas on guitar, you got Ray on bass, and you got the other Matt on drums.
Correct.
So give them all the credit that they deserve.
Oh, yeah, amazing. Just amazing musicians, man. Like I got very lucky, like it, because we've all been in other bands prior, and it was just finding the right formula, finding the right arrangement. And what I will say that we spend a lot of time focusing on camaraderie, because, I've always had this philosophy that there are more talented bands in almost every neighborhood in America than you hear on the radio, right? It's not the most talent that gets you there. It's one, the connection, the drive, but the willingness to stay together through all the BS. So you can't do that if you don't get along. So, one of the big things we focus on is, like, even if we don't have band night, we have like a regular practice night. And if we're like, one of us is, I got a lot going on, I'm tired, I'm whatever, can we not do this tonight? We still will go, like, meet up for dinner, meet up for drinks, and just like talk and hang out, because that's just as important as writing the music. Again, there's the bands on the radio are not always the most talented. They're the ones that were able to stick together through the trials and tribulations to get there.
You can tell too, because when you guys are on stage, you guys have that chemistry. So I like that. So thanks to Ray bringing recording devices to the rehearsal space, you guys are recording your demos before you go into the studio, giving you not only the opportunity to be able to tweak a song in a hotel room with your earbuds on and so forth, but then you get to go into the studio. So let's talk about that process for a little while. Let's start with, what studio did you go to?
Sonic Lounge has become our home. Joe Veers is the sound engineer. It is used to be in Spring Grove, Ohio. They since relocated just a little bit north of that, more towards Columbus. And that dude you might as well call him the fifth member of the band, because like I've taken other people there, and there's just something magical about that dude, where he is. It's fun because he puts you at ease and brings out the best in you, but he's not afraid to be real with you. And it's funny because, you'll do a take and you're like, I think I got it. And he's like, oh, that was great. That was perfect. We're going to do one more, but don't suck this time. And you're like, thanks, Joe. Like, dude, like, what was that? But then there's also times where he is when it comes to this level of recording and what's going on, I am not shy to use the term genius when I think of him. There's things that dude comes up with some crazy shit, and we're just like, never in a million years would I have dreamed to try that there. Like, that's where we learned what an oboe was for one of our songs, just so you know. But also, he'll push the limits in a very respectful, gentle way that makes you feel comfortable enough to try it. And then he's almost always every time right. So it's like you can't even like argue about it, because they'd be like, there was one time I remember specifically where Thomas, he had this idea in his head for a guitar part that he thought would be cool. And, like we have the song written. We think the song is done. We think the song is written. We think we're there to record the song. We are not. We're there to rewrite the song, because Jeff is like, dude, what you need to do here is, and there was one time, I swear to God, he took a Bic pen cap. Okay. And it was like, we had most of the structure done, the song's there, but he wants more filler. He wants more little ambient sound effects. Takes all these pedals real quick, like a mad scientist. Just starts unplugging shit, plugging new shit in. We don't know what he's doing. We are not even at the time like, what is this pedal? What is this? He's like, just hold on. And he does it. And then he's like, Thomas, take this pen cap. And then he's like, now I want you to like strike it against the strings. And there were like different parts or whatever. And then when we did it, we were like, holy shit, how would you have, how, like, what made you think to do that, And it came out so freaking awesome. And I already know you're gonna ask, so I'm gonna pull up that.
Start looking it up.
but no, that you can hear it on Adam's Peak. So Adam's Peak is just a different song for us, because again, we're trying to write different styles, keep it entertaining, keep it energetic, but keep it fun for us and keep it new for the audience. So it's not your traditional Life After the Song. It's a very more experimental, and it came together so powerfully. But it's just so funny when you can write these songs, you have your parts, you have the powerhouse, it's there. And then someone else comes in and goes, but I hear this off in this corner and this off in the distance and this here, and try this. And you're like, I mean, I guess if you want me to, man, I will. And then when it's done, you're like, how did he think of it? How did he do that? Like, I would have never thought I'm going to get a bunch of pedals and a pin cap and put some background effects on here that flow beautifully through it, you know?
Now, that's a big studio as well. Did you record digitally into Pro Tools?
I know it's a giant. It's actually a Neve board, and apparently, you know, there's only like, I want to say off the top of my head, I think there was like 11 of these made in the world, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's like a kind of a big deal. It's if you do the research, that look into who it is, but that was all analog. But then he did have like a digital output that it went to, where he could do the editing and do a lot of like really cool, just, you know, correction and things and fixing stuff. And it was just every time we go there, man, it's just impressive to watch, because as you know, I like to talk a lot. You probably picked up on it at this point. I know, right? But then like Joe starts doing his mastermind stuff, and you instinctively just shut the fuck up so he can focus. And it's hard for me to do, but when I do, it works out really well for everyone, because it lets him he just starts clicking and moving, and his brain, the way it works, it's just fascinating to watch the process of someone who actually knows what they're doing, instead of just hitting like record, I'll hit like some edit here, I'll correct this here. It's not that. Every time you work with him, it is really him molding some masterpiece out of the clay that you provide. And it's always different. It's always this new experience of like, I never know how good the final product's going to be. You can think it's going to be good all you want. You can be nervous about how good it's going to be all you want. But as soon as he's done with it, it's always better than you would have ever dreamed. And you're like, thanks, man. Like, you're amazing.
So when you guys were in the studio and you're working with him, does he have you record together as a band to lay down the basic tracks?
Yes. That's one thing that, you know, he kind of, as you learn new people and learn each other, I do a lot of like overlaying vocals. And I'm a fan of it. I don't know why, just the way my brain works and likes to write stuff. So in the beginning, you know, we're doing these scratch tracks, and the vocals don't fit. They don't fit because you get one microphone. I get one run at this while we're doing the band scratch track. And he's like, you got too many words. And I'm like, no, they layer. You'll see. Because we didn't pre-rehearse it. I just hear it in my brain that way. And I hear like, oh, this needs to go like that. So then when you go to like lay them individually, he's learned at this point that he just knows to accept it. And he's like, it's going to be how it works. Yeah. And so we usually the first day scratch tracks, and then we jump in on the drums. And Matt is very meticulous. Matt is very, very well driven at being prepared, you know, so he will wear his ass out before we get to a studio, to where most of our songs with the drums, he knocks out in maybe a couple of takes, and that's it. Now, it's a lot of drums to set up. It's a lot of drums to mic. He's got a very big kit, but he uses it well. He knows what he's doing, but he's so prepared when we show up that it's not like, oh, we're going to spend a day on drums. Like, if we spend a day on drums, it's the whole album is done on drums in that day. And so he's very well trained. He's very well conditioned. He makes sure that he is prepared when he walks in.
Well, he's a great drummer. Pretty solid. Keeps time. He's like a human metronome for sure.
Yeah.
The other one, Thomas, on guitar. That man could not possibly be any more animated.
And he's like, well, like myself, he's like that all the time. So it's not like a stage act thing. It's not like it's a show. You're hanging out with Thomas. It's just, there's constantly his little mind is just going, man. He's just always all over the place. And we love it, you know? We're just like, all right, cool, dude. Like, hit me with the next thing. What do we got, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, he's a character for sure.
He is, dude.
No, I appreciate the whole band and the chemistry that you guys have together. So it's kind of cool to kind of hear your process. So let's go ahead and finish off the studio process. So you record the basic tracks, you go ahead then do your overdubs and everything. What's the mix process like? Do you guys stay for the mix process, or do you let Joe do his thing?
So both. We usually stay there, and again, he is lightning fast at what he does. So he hears it on his mind, and that's the part that's the most difficult for us, because we're always talking and joking and being dumb guys. So it's like, you know, we're always like ripping on this goofy, stupid shit. And I swear to God, he just starts click, 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 and he hears it. He's getting in his head, and he'll get us a copy when we leave. Now, the drive home, we will listen to it over and over and over. And then we listen to it individually over and over and over. And we tend to meet up for like a band meeting in which we have notes. All of us say, like, for adjustments, just like small, I wouldn't even call them corrections. It's just preferences, where we would say, like, I wish that guitar note was a little louder here. I wish the vocals pushed through a little bit more there, or whatever it is that we hear and want. And then we will try to categorize those as clean and neat as we can, send them back to him. It usually takes one round because he goes, okay, cool. And then he just does it, sends us the next track with the adjustments made. And then that's usually it. I mean, it's a very simple process once that goes. Like, once we hit the studio, once we get to the point where we say we're going to the studio, we're recording the rest, the new album, the new whatever, it's a very streamlined process where it's usually within, I would say, a week, we've got everything we need finalized, and it's really, really cool.
Now, I know you say you give Joe, the ability to be creative in the recording process. Do you give him creative control in the mixing process?
Yeah, 100%, man. We fully trust and have faith in him. He'll do his mixing, he'll do that, and like I said, we listen to it, and then if there's spots where we're like, I think this needs to be adjusted, or I think this needs to be changed a little here and there, well, he does it, and he's usually fine with that. And then one more thing I do love to highlight is that, like, when we are in the recording process, one of my personal favorite things about it is that you are surrounded with good musicians. You're surrounded with people that are super talented and super creative and write all these complicated things. And you hear it when you're doing it in the rehearsal space. You hear it when it's live. You hear it all that, but you don't truly hear it until you do your individual solo parts as the recording. So you do the scratch track and then individual instrument on top of that. Now, while that instrument is being done, vocals, guitar, drums, bass, whatever, the other three of us supportively sit in the control room, listen, give feedback and stuff. But the beauty of those moments to me of truly hearing what everybody does, because there's a lot of little nuancy stuff that you don't hear when it's just 1,000 decibels on a room. There's a lot of where you get to isolate and just really listen and say, damn, dude, I know you're good. I forget how good, what you did there with that little flair, the little accent, the little whatever, those extra two notes that I never heard in the rehearsrsal space. You hear it all very crystal clear there. And it gives you a very strong new appreciation as much as we respect and love each other and appreciate each other. There's a new level of respect every single time of damn, I didn't realize you were doing all that. That sounds so cool, dude. I love that. And it's like you're hearing your own song for the first time yourself,
When we talk about Joe and having creative license, being a mix engineer, I'm kind of curious to see where the creative license lies. So for example, we give Joe the ability to be creative when he's doing ambient noises, as you mentioned earlier, but how about he chooses the reverbs, he chooses the delays or the different effects that he uses in the mix, correct?
Yeah, it's never a I have all control. It's, hey, I have an idea. Can we try it? Or can you listen to it? And I mean, again, 99% of the time we're like, yeah, love it. But it's never okay, well, I'm just going to do this. Y'all shut up and just deal with what I do. It's more guys, here's what I'm hearing. You tell me what you think. And then we'll listen to his idea, which are, almost always perfect and amazing. And then he'll do it. We listen to it. And now, on the few times we're like, well, I get what you're going for, but that maybe not right there for, we don't want that. I don't love that. And he's very, he knows and he makes it clear he's there to help us. He's not there to control us. He's not there to tell us what to do, but he's always got beautiful ideas and very creative ideas that he's willing to say, can we try this? What do you think of this? Now we still do it. We're the ones that produce it, but it's just nice to have a sounding board.
Yeah. Oh, that's the mark of a good engineer for sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of guys that when they record, I feel like a lot of bands make this mistake where one or two of them are good at recording. They've recorded other bands, but the problem is if you don't have the voice of reason on your own stuff, you fall in love with your own stuff, right? So I've seen so many bands where they record it and they don't have that outside party to say, the vocals are a little off here, or the guitar, I wouldn't have done that or whatever. They fall in love with their own product. So they don't get the benefit of having that other guy that's like, look, I know you wrote it this way. I know you think of it this way. You hear it this way, but hear me out on this. And, so that's where I see a lot of people that like write, record, master their own stuff. It's honestly not their best work, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying somebody else would have pushed them harder,
right? Because
they weren't already in love with the product in their mind ahead of time.
Does he ever make any arrangement changes?
Everything is almost always done together, so there have been times where he said like one song where there's like a reverse, Matt's hitting his cymbal, but he like reversed the sound effect of it, right? Obviously that's not how we did it live. We did it in normal fashion because we don't have a time machine, right? So then he went back and was like, it would be cooler sounding if the reverb of it was like reversed and it was like almost played backwards. But all those things are always openly communicated and presented. It's never like, hey, after you guys left, we do joke a lot that he goes in and re-records all of our stuff because we're like, he's very multifaceted and talented. So we always joke that like, hey man, thanks for going back in and doing that bass line for me. Thanks for going back in and doing the drums.
Thanks for tightening up my parts.
Yeah, because it's like, you're in disbelief. Like there's no way that we sounded that cool. So that you had to have gone back in and done that after we fell asleep. Like, the whole Dave Grohl thing with the drums, right, when he re-recorded all the drum tracks and didn't tell anyone. And you're like, we know you're doing that, Joe, because we don't sound that good.
Yeah. So
no, as much as we joke, to my knowledge, that's never happened. Joe's always very, very respectful and just says, like, hey, try this. And even if it takes us 4 or 5 tries to get the idea of what he's saying, I will say most of that comes to the attention of probably vocals and extra guitars, where Thomas will knock his guitar out, perfect, awesome. But then Joe, comes up with those ideas of like filler material on vocals. There's a lot of times when, I have it in my head the way I want it, but again, not until recent times having the ability to do it ahead of time. You have to go back and say like, try it this way, try this instead of that word, condense it to this, or put your emphasis on this syllable instead of that one. And there's like, okay, cool. And we're still the ones doing it, but through guided direction of a more intelligent view.
So what you're saying is the only thing that he actually re-records is the vocals. So he just re-sings.
He sings all of it. He sings all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, hey, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we give you the moment to talk about somebody who's worked behind the scenes or may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody that you'd like to thank or shine a little light on?
Oh, 100%, man. We have a buddy of ours that follows the band, helps the band. He's essentially another member of the band, but Mark Ripley does an amazing job. Like he's very, very good. He helps us load drums, load equipment, shows up to the shows, make sure that I'm taken care of, like if I need a ride or, like, hey, you're in a rock and roll band, so you're going to be up on stage, you're going to be doing some drinks. So maybe we'll just make sure you got to ride home safe, all the good, important background stuff, but also, just moral support. Him, there was Scott Dunn that has been a long time fan, man, great dude. The wives of the band members have always been very supportive, helpful, whether it's running merch booth, whether it's like just helping out, preparing things. We've been very, very blessed at having just a good circle around us, and we try to keep it that way. We try to, and that's part of that give back thing where people feel like they're part of that community, that family, and they feel it, and there's just a lot of really, really good people that just are always down to help us out and just make sure that we have what is needed to get the job done. And they've just done a phenomenal job just all around.
Fantastic. All right, folks, we have done it. We have reached the top of the hour, which doesn't mean we have reached the end of the show. If you've enjoyed this show, please tell a friend. And if you have not, well, what the hell, tell two. You can reach out to both of us tonight over at jfranze.com. We will keep this or any other conversation going for that matter. Matthew, sir, cannot thank you enough for being here. I would like to leave the final words to you.
I just want to say thanks, man. You've been amazing. It's been a pleasure getting to know you through this process. And I just want to thank everybody that listens, supports, and goes and sees live music. And, kind of like he said about a show, if you don't like us, that's fine. Tell 2 people. If you do, tell 1. But no, hopefully everybody just really enjoys coming out. I will say that every single show that we put on, we try to put the best energy out there we can, because I realized a long time ago, there's these bands that feel like when you go to see them, it is your privilege to be in that room. And I've always lived under the mentality that it is our privilege to be there in front of you, because you guys are the ones that showed up. You bought a ticket, overpriced drinks, parking, babysitter, whatever you had to do to be in that room to support us. It is our pleasure and blessing to be on that stage, not the other way around. So, just come out and hang out with us. Check us out, man, because we love to give you guys a reason to come back.
All right, folks. On that note, have a good night. All right, well, time for a few shout-outs. First, let's go ahead and shout out High Mountain Breezes Music. They are right in the middle of finishing their next single. However, if you haven't had a chance to check out their current single, Cats in the Cradle, please do so. They did a very good job. I think you'll be impressed. VR Knives. Vaughn Ray, he is not only a rock star, he is a knife maker. And if you are in need of a knife, please check out VR Knives. The Mark Bottolato. Mark, sir, thank you for joining us each and every week. I truly do appreciate it. Miss Kathy, thank you for joining us. It makes my heart warm every time I see you here in the show. And the question of the day, James. James, sir, thank you for joining us. I truly appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all that you do to contribute to the show. If you would like a shout out here on the show, please go ahead and visit jfranze.com/shoutout. All right, folks, on that note, have a good night.